We the people of the United States of America, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. The preamble of the Constitution lays out a specific structure of government that was thought through and planned by the Founding Fathers. Nowadays, people often become frustrated with how the government always seems to argue with itself. However, this arguing is actually a well-planned safety mechanism to protect the freedom of the people. Let's look at the three branches of a government, the system designed to keep them in check, and how they were intended to function. History.com says, the framers of the U.S. Constitution divided the powers and responsibilities of the new federal government among three branches: the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. End quote. The legislative branch of government are the people who make the rules. They're collectively known as Congress, which is made up by the House of Representatives and the Senate. The judicial branch is also known as the courts. This is where all the rulings on the laws, which are made by the legislative branch, are made. The judicial branch of government has three levels of courts that make rulings on whether or not the policies are constitutional or whether or not someone has committed a crime. The third branch of government is the executive branch. The White House website says the power of the executive branch is vested in the President of the United States, who also acts as head of state and commander-in-chief of the armed forces. The President is responsible for implementing and enforcing the laws written by Congress, and, to that end, appoints the heads of the federal agencies, including the Cabinet. The Vice President is also part of the executive branch, ready to assume the presidency should the need arise. The Cabinet and independent federal agencies are responsible for day-to-day enforcement and administration of the federal laws. End quote. This quote from the White House website explains the role of the executive branch. The executive branch's job is to enforce the rules that are made by the legislative branch and enforce the rulings that are made by the judicial branch. Now, this is only the first part of a two-part story. The second part of the story is what the Founding Fathers intended. According to documentsofreedom.org, quote, the Founding Fathers were well acquainted with the long-held tenet of government, the acclamation of power by a single person or body of government is the greatest threat to liberty. End quote. What this quote is saying is that when the government tries to take all the power from the people, the government itself tears itself down. In order for a government to be strong, it must be able to work together with the people and with itself to be entirely supported. This is a lot like a teeter-totter. Here before me, I have a well-balanced system. On this end, we have the legislative branch, and this end, we have the judicial branch. Anchoring it at the bottom is the executive branch, which is made up of the president. They're the ones who enforce the rules. Now we see a system here that is known today as checks and balances. If one end tries to gain too much power, the other end has to balance it out. The legislative branch and judicial branch must work together and fulfill their own responsibilities without encroaching on the responsibilities of another. If one side tries to take too much power, like these dimes here, it will cause the system to tilt that way. Eventually, the whole system falls and becomes broken. In order for the system to work perfectly, the power must be shared and distributed among both ends. In conclusion, we see that the system is very delicate and well thought through. The Founding Fathers had a specific intent, where each of the ends worked together and kept checks on the other systems. As the people of the United States, our job is to support the executive branch, our leaders of this country. We must also, through supporting the executive branch, hold up the judicial branch and the legislative branch of the teeter-totter. This is why I want to encourage you to be an active part of your government. Thank you.